All right, here we are. It's another Friday, and it's time for Q&A with Alan and Marshall. Except Marshall has deserted us. He is in Spokane, Washington right now, so hopefully he's listening. I did talk to him this morning, but I am so excited to have my good friend and industry icon, legend, historian, Mr. Scott Fresener with us. So,
thank you for having me, by the way. Marshall's probably snowed in. I think they got snow in Seattle or wherever he's at.
I think they did. He didn't mention that. He said he now knows why he lives in Arizona and why he has no desire to move back to the north.
Yeah.
So yeah, if everybody is listening, let us know. Put a comment up. Let us know where you're listening from, and yeah, we'll go from there. So Scott, you're down there with Marshall, it's almost like the hub of screen printing in garment decorating now is Arizona. So you're down there. You don't live far from Marshall. So
he's in Gilbert and I'm in Mesa, which are similar side by side. Although Marshall and I, because of COVID, we keep saying let's have coffee or dinner, but we haven't because. So it's funny. He's here. I'm here. Inksoft is here. Smart Designs is here. You know.
He actually moved from Gilbert. He was there for about a year. He lives in Mesa now because he told me.
He told me that.
And he goes, I need to call him. He goes, he lives like not far from me.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're sitting back in our shirt sleeves, drinking our margaritas while you guys are shoveling snow.
Oh, absolutely. It's awful. Of course, all the cool people are there. Terry Combs is there. Jay Bissell, Jesse Martinez.
That's right.
Everybody's down there. So yeah, it's becoming the place. I get to go there a couple times a year though, so I'm excited about that.
I think you were here last time, and I'm not sure why we didn't hook up. I think it was pre-COVID, but who knows?
It was in COVID. I was there in November, and you know what? I had a new dealer.
I'm never worried. Don't ever feel bad that you didn't call me or whatever.
Yeah, well, and that I'm a bad friend too. So
this is the only person that ever visits me is Greaves. Greaves will sometimes stop on his way to a trade show like Long Beach, spend a couple of days. So Greaves is the only industry person that's probably ever been in my guest room many times.
When I come back, we will get together. We'll grab Marshall and everybody, and we'll just do a night out, have dinner and stuff. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
have some drinks. We got some people watching on there. Jim from Connecticut. How you doing, Jim? Glad you're there. Of course, the one and only Mr. Richard.
There's Mr. Greaves.
Yep.
My house guest every now and then.
Absolutely. Kevin Koff, the emulsion guru from Chromaline. Do you know Kevin, Scott?
No, I don't.
You know what? Doing some great things. I shared some of his videos. He's really stepped it up for Chromaline on videos.
I've watched his videos. I don't know him. Yeah. I don't think I know Kevin. Kevin, I don't know if I know you or not, but I've watched videos. Good stuff.
Yeah. So good guy. Brian, how you doing out of Missouri? We got Kisa in Texas. Kyle, Texas. Yeah. No internet or no cell signal. Oh, poor people.
That'd be tough.
Oh, I don't know how they're handling it there. I mean, we have way more snow and it's colder here in Michigan, but we're prepared for it. So, it's
like when somebody bitches from Buffalo, New York about how the snow and the cold, I kind of go, you're from Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, I hate it. I mean, right now I am hating the weather. I'm hating the cold and stuff. And I grew up here. And so I can't, I can't really complain. I get more mad at myself. I've just made poor life choices, including geographically where I live. So it's no one to blame but me. Gustav from Sweden. Always. How you doing, sir? The one and only Mr. Peter Walsh from M&R.
The infamous Peter Walsh. Peter.
Always.
Peter's probably as old as me. I don't know how old you are, Peter.
Well, I don't want to even ask that to get into that.
Hello, Heather from Kentucky.
Yep, from Cave City. How you doing?
Yeah, been there.
And Kevin says, thanks for watching the videos. It's appreciated. Keep posting them, Kevin, man. It's great what you're doing. Scott and I talk about it all the time, that it's the fundamental things, the simple things that are always the issue, of screen making, of tension, of art. Why can't I get good dots? And we'll talk about that later. But
beat them over the head.
I just shared a video actually with Heather on his applying fat film, which just, was great. So
I haven't seen Heather. Heather, I haven't seen you for a couple of years. I haven't been back to Kentucky for 2 years. So next time I come back, I'll come by.
She has some pretty cool videos too of her lifting humongous tons of iron. She's a power weightlifter now. And so,
Heather, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love Heather. They have a great shop. I love visiting her. I'm physically afraid of her though. So she's a beast. So no, she's really done great with it. So all right. Well, everybody else, if you come on, let us know where you're from, and we really appreciate everybody watching there. Well, Scott, let's get into it. Let's see what our first topic is. And you and I were talking about this yesterday, and we're just going to put on this: "Don't die on that hill." And I titled it this because you were telling me, we were talking about, of course, clients and stuff that they were having a problem with dots coming through. They're talking to you, getting advice, and you mentioned a software, and they said, "Yeah, well, I just hate that software." Well, the one you're using isn't working. So share that story. And I think it applies to everything. We want answers, but we want answers in our own little box. And there are too many companies that are willing to die on a hill.
Well,
would you agree on that?
I do separations all day long, which drives me nuts. I'm in Photoshop. That's my life. My wife says, "You're going to come watch a movie with me?" No, I got some steps to do. So I'm in Photoshop. But I over the years, doing lots of seminars at trade shows and doing SEPs, I get these artists that will email me or talk to me in person saying, "I hate Photoshop. I use AI. I'm okay with that, but I hate Photoshop is always a thing." So I had an email from somebody who said that I have a job I did in AI. This was not a customer of mine that I had done SEPs for. This is just somebody that just sent it to me, knowing that I knew what was going on. I have a job I'm trying to do. There's a bunch of gradations in it. I can't figure out how to separate them correctly and get the overlap correctly. And where they overlap, it's giving me crazy colors. And what's your advice, Scott? And I said, "Well, if you gave me this job, I could do your complete set of separate." And I wasn't trying to sell them a job. I said, I could do the whole steps in 2 minutes in Photoshop, because Photoshop loves that kind of stuff. And they came back with, "I hate Photoshop." And my response was, "You know what? You can then struggle for the next couple hours in AI working on it, but I can do it in Photoshop." And I guarantee you, if you walk into Hot Topic and you look at all the shirts that are on the walls there, 90% of them were separated in Photoshop. Probably 80% were built in AI, but they're separated in Photoshop. And so it's always frustrating for me when people, they don't want to use the tools. And I call these guys, and I'm not talking down to anybody here, I call people like that vector snobs. Yeah. They're taught that vectors are good and rasters are bad, pixels are bad. Yeah. And again, my Hot Topic analogy, go to Hot Topic, look at all the shirts there. They were separated in Photoshop as pixels, probably 300 DPI, and the prints look great. Yep. And so it's just frustrating. It's kind of a daily thing with me. Or I'll get a SEPs order in and somebody will say, "I need this job for separations, but I want the file back as a vector file." And the job's like a full color picture. And they don't understand that is never going to be a vector file unless you want it to be cartoony. We'll send it off to one of the vectorization services and they'll make it anyway. So it's frustrating. And on the similar topic that you and I talked about the other day, I sell a RIP, and I don't care if I sell a RIP. I don't make much money on a RIP. So this is not to sell you a RIP. But I can't believe the companies who have 4 or 5 automatic presses, half a dozen artists, big shops that will send me sometimes the hard work for separations. And I'll ask them the typical question: "Do you have a RIP? Because I'm going to send you SEPs that need a RIP to print out." "Oh, no, we haven't got a RIP." And to me, it's incredible. You spend $50,000, $100,000 on automatic equipment, and you won't want to piss away $500 on a RIP.
I agree.
And again, I don't care if you buy, although AccuRip is off the market for whatever reason, but I don't care what RIP you buy. Buy Filmmaker, buy from Cadling. I'm not trying to sell you a RIP. It's just the point is, why wouldn't they spend the $500 on you said it, the tool that will make their life easier? Because the problem with them not having a RIP is, if I send them files that are then pre-half-toned, if it isn't working at press, they can't tweak that file. They can't up sample it, down sample it, boost the yellow. They're screwed. If they have a RIP, that means they've got the file open in Photoshop. They can tweak it and re-output a film. And I don't know. It's probably I'm getting cynical as I'm getting older, but it's a nitpick, you know.
But I agree, because I think I am getting that way too. But we hear the same issues over and over, and the same barriers of, I hate that, I don't want to do that. Well, here's your problem. Here's your solution. If you had a heart issue, the doctor says, look, you got to have a heart cath. No, I don't like heart caths. Well, that's not an issue. You have a blockage.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's just it. You wouldn't argue. But we get that all the time. You know what? My screens aren't coming out well. And there's a reason. I think Kevin and I were talking about it. There is a reason every seminar I've done has been basic fundamental stuff, because those are the questions I hear over and over and over. How to
and this
print
business is really fundamentals. I've talked with Richard Greaves many times about, I think this business has its marketing side and its technical side. And the technical side has probably 20 things that if you follow those steps, make, the other kind of call I get is from somebody who maybe I do SEPs for as a new customer, and I cringe a little bit. I send them off to SEPs. They call back and say the design looks so washed out. It's real posterized. Well, I know exactly what happened. So I call them back and say, my guess is if you compared your film to the screen, you probably didn't hold anything lower than a 20% halftone dot.
Agreed.
Oh, no, my screen guys are great. They've been doing it for years. Yeah, they've been muscling out spot color screens that you can be overexposed, underexposed. Nobody will know the difference. But now we're talking halftones. And I said, the problem is these are always artists I'm dealing with, and I'm telling them, go back to your screen room.
Yeah.
The screen guys are going to go, get out. You know what you're talking about. But I always tell them, just compare the film to the screen. Have them do a print of just that screen on a Pellon and see if all the dots are there. And they normally call back and go, wow, you were so right. And I'll tell them, check your exposure times. Maybe you're exposing as just a number, 2 minutes. I said, try 30 seconds on a high mesh. And they'll go, oh, that'll never work. Well, you don't know, Do you guys burn mini 305s? Oh, that's a new one for us. We use 160, So it's really a matter of learning, and I don't know. I probably ain't getting cynical, like I said, but these conversations have been going on for the last 20 years. And so some things don't change,
because I write so much of the same stuff about fundamental stuff. That's everything I talk about. That high stuff, I let Mark Coudray handle, Richard Greaves handle stuff like that. But, I handle so much of the fundamental because that is everyday bread and butter. And it does get maddening when my print looks washed out. Well, you're not holding the dot. Well, how come I'm not holding it? Have you changed your exposure? Have you changed your mesh count? I'm sorry, you can't hold that dot on a 180. You're going to have to go up to a 236. You're going to have to go up to that. They don't know the 4.5 rule of threads.
Yeah.
And
if they're a newbie, I don't, we have a churning in this industry. People come and go. And if you go on the online groups, there's lots of newbies who ask what for some of us are such a basic question. Right. But I remember when I was a newbie, that's why I wrote a book. I had nowhere to go. So I wrote a book on how to do it. But I'm not banging on anybody for not knowing it, but just explore, ask questions, and be careful of maybe even asking your suppliers. Sometimes the suppliers, those guys are selling vinyl and lots of non-screen print stuff. And they go to their supplier where they're going to buy their ink and ask them, how do I hold a halftone dot? That guy never made a screen. The guy selling the ink. They need to go to guys like you or me, or just go online. There's 10,000 YouTube videos.
But the problem is, you go online, Scott, and I know, I regret every time I post on a Facebook message board. I did last Sunday, and actually Kevin texted me and just goes, you'll never learn, because I got hammered immediately. Because regardless of what the best practices are that are just given, there's always going to be some Yahoo behind it, because everybody's an expert behind a keyboard. Yeah. That faceless deal. And I'm like, and I told Kevin, I go, this is my own fault. Why do I even do that? Because we do want to help people. We want them to be successful.
We do, but then I don't post as often as I should, because you just never know. There's somebody out there that
I think you're right.
Everybody has an opinion, but
Yeah. I think you're right. It's, ask people who know. But I think for all of our listeners and too, maybe think about going, what are those hills we're dying on? What is it? No, I just love this way and I don't ever want to change. Maybe we need to be a little bit more flexible on there. You got a couple other posts. Let's see what this is.
Well, Ghosted, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, commented about my master classes. And
there's a couple before that. Let's get those. Heather said, great video. Come see me anytime. Cal Keene, good morning, Cal. William Mitchell, how you doing? Jim has a question first. What do you do if you don't have Photoshop, Scott?
Buy Photoshop. I don't want to be some flip. What I get a lot, and I get it, is I don't want to piss away $50 a month with Adobe or 25 if you just get Photoshop, because I don't want to be tied to them. Just do it. I don't mean to be flip about it. Just do it. Yeah. I don't have a good alternate other than maybe Corel Photo Paint, or there's probably other programs that maybe I don't follow because Photoshop is the de facto standard. Mm-hmm. But Jim, I don't take that the wrong way. Just do it.
There's no other way around it. Guys that are better artists, I am not. This is if anybody thinks this is my wheelhouse, I am listening and just jabbering right now. I do not know art at all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just add things and but the guys I've talked to, Marshall, who is an art director and stuff, said best world, learn both.
Oh yeah. You need them both, and it could be Corel. If you're a PC user, maybe you got Corel. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
The funny thing is, years ago, I would get for separations, I would get 15 Corel files a month. Then I get a lot of Photoshop files, a lot of just JPEGs. Mm-hmm. I rarely get a Corel file anymore. I get AI files all the time.
Yeah.
To separate, and people are going, "Why would you separate an AI file in Photoshop?" It's because you got a lot going on, and maybe there's an embedded photograph, and AI is going to hate that. They'll do CMYK, but that's not what you want. So, Gustav mentioned, bring up his. Yeah, talking about YouTube videos, I figured out, I put all my videos on online courses. I charge for it, but I figured people like a structured, someone they know course, as opposed to going through YouTube videos and hunting and pecking. And so my master classes have been great. I don't know if you have the address, you have my main address, but it's t-shirtprintingmasterclasses.com. And I have a Corel one coming out that I did with my good friend Stefan from Mauritius. And that's going to be up probably in about a week. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because people said to me, why would people pay you for courses online when they could go to YouTube for free? I figured it's like subscribing to a cooking channel or whatever. You want to listen to somebody and maybe have it structured. And these courses, like a lot of online courses, they nag you if you've missed a lesson. They track where you're at. And it's been because people don't buy books anymore. It's all online.
Right.
I got to give away my book now on a PDF. My How to Print T-shirt book is out of print.
So if you're not sure what that is, some of the newbies listening, How to Print T-shirts for Fun and Profit. Scott and his wife, Pat, wrote this before I was in the industry.
Before you were born.
It was the Bible, man. There are more people that have had that and started to.
But the last 4 or 5 years, the sales have declined. I was selling through ST Publications, Screenprinting Magazine. They had it on Amazon for me. And Amazon went from selling 1,000 books a year to 100.
Sure.
And people went to YouTube. And so I decided, gosh, I can't afford to print 5,000 books that'll last me 20 years now. And I'll just make it a PDF, make it interactive, and give it away. It's free on my website. You have my web address there somewhere, Alan. It's free. Go to my homepage and you click on a link and it's free. There we go. Just go there. It's I have an attitude. I force them to go to my website and they have to order through my shopping cart. I get your email and your name as for my mailing list. Yeah. That's the trade-off.
Yep.
I get that, and then you have to order my book, and I give you a coupon code that zeroes out the invoice, and you download it immediately. Anyway,
perfect.
I'm not trying to sell your product because it's free.
Yep. Absolutely. We got some other people that are saying stuff, but that's great. Great question, Gosta. Clara from Austria, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Cal?
My longest vacation was Salzburg, Sound of Music.
Really?
I left that city knowing every song.
Cal from said that was his first book.
Cal.
A lot of people. I know Pete Balsani from Same Day Tees. I had lunch with him a couple weeks ago. Said he started in this. He was in your very first, one of your very
He
first.
was my youngest student. Pete Balsani was, I think, and Pete and I have talked about it. I think he was 16 or 17, just a kid and eager. You just love guys like that. They're young, eager. Boom, I'm going to kill. And Pete's become a good friend.
He's a great guy. Yeah. And you know what? Has his second digital squeegee on.
I saw that. He's my poster child. I tell you what.
He's doing great. So, all right. Michael, Two Masters. I followed and purchased from Scott since we had to order T-shirts and scale, the early 80s. He's still one of the best supporters of what he sells. Maybe make it more share, because it's not like you're buying. It's just sharing and donating. If you need brain surgery, go to a brain surgeon. I agree.
Thank you, Michael. Good hearing from you, Michael.
Absolutely. And, that's the difference. Can you find stuff on YouTube? Can you go to a Facebook message board and weed through all the opinions and probably find some semblance of an answer? Just go to the manufacturer. Go to the source.
It's surprising. Somebody will post, how do I mix this ink? Or how do I, we talked about, how do I mix the jacketing from Union? Well, did you call Union?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's just kind of probably we're getting cynical.
I see stuff, just ridiculous stuff. What's the cure temperature of this white ink? I'm like, well, standard plastisol, in case you don't know anybody, write this down. Standard plastisol cures at 330 degrees, 320 to 330. Just write that down.
Yeah.
Low cure is different.
Simple.
It's going to be under 300, but and it's all of them. Simon, good morning, Alan and Charlie.
Simon, always good to hear from you.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of Charlie younger the other day. It was and we did look a lot alike when we were younger. We both had glasses and bald, and he had hair then, like I have, but it was darker. And we did look similar. Now I don't think we look as similar. But
did you see the picture that was posted of him, Andy Anderson, and Barbara Engel?
I loved it.
It was great. I mean, I was at that show. That would have been my third year in the industry.
Well, years ago, I had buttons made. My button said, I'm not, because people at the shows always confuse this. They come up to me and say, hey, I went to your thing at your open house at Bullseye in Denver. Well, that's Charlie.
That was Charlie.
And I got a button that says, I'm not Charlie. And I got one for Charlie that says, I'm not Scott. And we wore those at trade shows.
Oh, that's great. Nate Leber, who was our guest last week, proud to be a Masterclass alumni.
Yeah, I remember. Nate, thank you for taking the class.
Yep. Scott's Masterclass was a big help when I started doing SEP. Scott was my first.
She came to a hands-on class I had back in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I know Heather. Well, I know Heather because I used to live in Bowling Green on and off, and I'd go up to Cave City and a great place.
So yeah, great, awesome responses. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, can I promote my band?
Yeah, let's do that. Hold on. Hold on. I think I have.
If Greaves is watching, he knows I'm going to pump my band. I have a Pink Floyd tribute band called Shine on Floyd, and I need more likes on my Facebook page. So go to my Facebook page, me, watch the videos. It's the real deal. This is what I do in my spare time. We have lasers, smoke, light show. I got backup singers, video wall. Here, this is I came prepared. I don't know if you can see that or not. That's my band.
And actually, I have it wrong. I forgot the D.
See, I came prepared. I'm going to promote my band.
There we go.
Sorry.
Scott, I remember the All Industry Band, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
those were good times.
With James Ortolani and Mario. What was Mario's last name from Impressions? He was in the last iteration.
Steve Monroe was there a little bit.
Steve Monroe,
Phil Ward from Hicks was there also.
And Bob Alabaster, the late great Bob Alabaster. Mike Fraser was in the last band. We played at ISS Long Beach. That was fun.
Yep. So,
maybe if there's trade shows again, we'll do it again. Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Daryl Garcia says attended one of Scott's workshops. It was led by Bob Alabaster at Pure Art. Yeah. Bob, one of the good ones.
He was a good guy.
He was a great guy. So cool.
I'm chucking off.
All right. So we're talking about things. The other thing that I think people die on, and I get on printing questions of, if I hear one more person say, I'm trying to hold a deep cure on a stencil, because I want to print water based, and they just have a lousy light source. It's like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
no vacuum, nothing on it. It's like, it's just not going to happen. You're asking for problems. And
Yeah.
but I don't want to put the money out. I'm like, okay.
Same. I know it's
get
hard. It's easy to say that but I remember working out of my garage and being broke.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like the joke that I've made and lost millions. I'm on Scott 4.0 right now, upgrade,
Absolutely.
I remember the days of taking back, this will date me, taking back pop bottles, I don't think people do that anymore, do they? They take back the plastic.
Well, we do in Michigan. We have a bottle law where.
Oh, do you? Okay. See, we don't hear it, but I remember those days when you didn't have the money, and so it's easy to say, well, they just need to buy the rip or buy this. But I get it,
Yeah,
and it's been a struggle because of COVID. Although it's interesting, my SEPs business has been fairly steady. I thought it would drop off to nothing during COVID. But the guys who keep me busy, and I don't know why, maybe you have an answer, is the guys doing race car designs, race car shirts.
Yeah, I don't know either. I should ask because I have a couple printers at are race car printers down in Kentucky, and they're busy. They have not slowed down hardly.
I know. I have one guy that I'll bet in the last 8 months of COVID, I've probably done 400 separations for all sprint race cars, and it's easy whamming. It's easy stuff for me to separate anybody. I mean, it's vector. It's all done in AI and gradation and stuff. I think in the Photoshop, I can separate that stuff in 10 minutes in Photoshop. But I don't know why those guys, the school business has died off because I used to do a lot of school stuff and all that. But the race car guys, and I don't know why they do. And Richard Greaves is saying Kevin Davies also as a
is in the all industry band.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, Kevin played drums for Tony Orlando and Don.
I was just going to say that if people didn't know him, Kevin has been mentioned on this show for different reasons.
The late great Kevin.
The late great, yeah. Him and Spider, and remember it came out with Magic Window, which was ahead of its time. Such a great deal. But Kevin, most people don't realize that he actually was the drummer for Tony Orlando and Don.
For those that know me long enough know that Spider was a good personal friend. In fact, I saw Spider 3 days before he died. He was going to have a kidney replacement, and he came in because he used to always come by and just hang. Yeah. But this is a weird story. Spider is buried where my grandparents who raised me and past parents are buried. So, and then Spider's wife, Mary, died just last May. She didn't die from COVID, but we went to her service. She's buried with Spider. So when I go to visit my relatives at the cemetery, I always make a turn around and go over where Spider's buried and say a little hi to Spider. And now, of course, Mary's there. But it's just interesting that I go to see my family and there's Spider.
So. Now, I don't know how many people listening know who Spider was. Incredible artist. I remember he wrote the Can Do art book.
I thought I had one here, but I don't see one.
Yeah. I actually had two.
I published it. I mean, I laid it out. We laid it out in house.
Yeah. I bought some when I was at J Products. I bought two of them because there were some kids that I knew from church that were very artistic and just in a small town in New Philadelphia. Wasn't a lot there. So I gave them each a book on that. One of them has his own art studio now and went on his own, doing great, done stuff for huge companies. But he says he still has that book, and I told him
it was pre-computer. It was really it covered cutting overlays from Rubylith, and it covered separating, but all pre-computer. I mean, I'm thinking the book was probably mid '80s. I'm thinking
late '80s, when I got it, but early '90s. But wonderful. So.
One day we'll have to do something online, like post something. I know most of Spider's history and just post a little bit of history. Someone's saying, "Oh, Ron Brzezinski, Ron, good to hear from you.
How you doing, Ron?
And you still have a color teller, probably, Ron."
Yeah,
great. That was pre-computer when you're stripping in zipatone dots. You didn't know if I put a 30% yellow on a 40% red, what color will I get? And it was called the color trail. We did all the first ones for him. Eventually, we let Spider have it back because Spider did have a little complaining side where he didn't think we were selling enough of his product. And so I said to him one day with attitude, I said, just publish the book yourself and take the color teller and get those made. You'll see how easy it is and how cheap it is to inventory products like this. Yeah. And then he ended up having the guy in Richard would know, Greaves, the guy in Hawaii, Kano. not Cano.
Clifford from One Shot. I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
From One Shot, I thought.
Yeah. Greaves is saying can do art 81. Thank you, Richard
okay.
Greaves. Richard Greaves is keeping us honest here. He's probably got a can do art in his hand right now.
Probably, or he looked it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone, Facebook user. We don't know who you are. You got to put your name. Wish I had one of Spider's hand-drawn separated pieces around to show the youngsters. They were incredible. Oh, Scott's going to get one. He has one.
No, the funny thing is, Spider did the artwork for our first school. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay. Yeah.
He did the artwork. I lost the artwork, but Charlie found it on a brochure in black and white.
Okay.
And I'm embarrassed. I forget who colored it in, but was it Mark Gervais? Somebody colored it in just in the last few months.
Okay.
And Pete Balsani printed me a bunch of these, and so I've got a bunch of these that we were going to put on for like an auction. But that's Spider.
Oh, that's great.
And Pete printed them on his digital squeegee for me and sent me a bunch of them. And God, the quality is great. Anyway, I was so thrilled because I lost the original art.
Oh, that's
the
awesome.
Artboards. And
So
anyway, talking about Spider. There you go.
We got a question from Austria. Question for Mr. Scott. Any tips on creating underbase white and Photoshop channels?
Yeah, my quick tip would be make the image have a transparent background. That's number one. There's no background, checks around it. Convert the file to grayscale, invert it. That's a real basic underbase. Take a little tone curve and tweak it, maybe a little richer. It may be still weak under the reds and the blues, so maybe you may have to boost those areas of color. But that's a bare bones underbase. Take an image in color with transparent background, convert to grayscale, invert, tweak it a little bit to make it a little heavier. Boom, print it out.
Awesome.
Now, was that quick? Who asked that question?
That's awesome.
Did I get it?
Clara, hopefully that helps you. Let us know. And if not, at the end, Clara, we'll put up Scott's email address. You're welcome to contact him. And
yeah, anybody. Because I mean, I don't want to say I get bored here in Arizona, but I the questions have declined over the years. You probably know that. It used to be in the early days, your phone would ring off the hook. How do I do this? How do that? Now they're going to go to YouTube or they go to a Facebook group. And so the questions that we used to get all the time on the phone and on email, they've declined tremendously.
I get more text and things off of Messenger too.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, I do. So
yeah, I need to do more of that. Greaves and I are doing thank you, Richard. Cano. I knew it was Cano. I forgot it was Albert.
Yeah, Albert. Okay.
Yeah,
and then the unknown Facebook user is Pete Balsani.
And
right.
There's the great.
Yeah, absolutely.
This second digital squeegee. Pete's really in debt, I'm sure.
Oh, you know what? And like I said, I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago when I was in Chicago, and man, Fat Rosie's great taco place there we went to.
Pete left the business, and started a restaurant for a few years. He decided to change professions.
Oh, that I did not know.
You didn't know that? No,
he didn't tell me that.
He disappeared, and I saw him years later. Pete, what happened? Oh, I started a restaurant, and I came back to the t-shirt business. So he got out of it and then got sucked back in. So
sure,
that happens a lot. I will get a call every couple of weeks from somebody says, "Hey, Scott, I came to your school 20 years ago, blah, blah, blah. I got out of the business, but I'm back." And I don't know whether it's because they need another part-time job or that, I don't know what it is, but they're back. And Greg Kitson is hanging out with us too.
Yep. Richard says he has 2 copies of Can Do Our book. Michael Wilbright. So are we all the old guys? Yeah, I'm actually in that group now. I remember when I started in the 80s, I was the kid. And do you remember, Robert Roberts from Lee Screen, right, Scott?
I don't know. I probably do, but
it was Lee Roberts. He had the handlebar mustache. So he labeled me when I was in my early 20s, when I was with J Products, as the boy wonder, because J Products was a huge dealer and stuff.
Yeah. And
I ran into him probably, didn't see him for years, probably the year 2000. And I come around the corner at SGIA, and there he is, and he looks at me, goes, "The boy wonder." And I said, "Yeah, well, the boy wonder is pushing 40 now, so that's kind of gone." But
for those that don't know, I'm be honest, I'm 73, and I think some people go, "You're 73," and so my line is always, "I still play in a rock and roll band."
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, most of the screen printers do.
And for those that don't know, that don't follow me, I've had numerous major surgeries in the last year and a half. A year ago, October, not this last October, I had my prostate removed robotically because it was cancerous, and now I'm cancer free. And then in last July, I had open heart surgery. You want to see my scar? Funny. If you meet somebody with open heart surgery, they had surgery. They always want to say, "Let's show us. Let's compare."
Show the zipper. Yeah,
show the zipper. But I had open heart surgery, not for a heart attack, but for a valve. That we talked about tools. I needed to get something fixed, and it wasn't right. And then 2 months later, my gallbladder exploded on me, and I'm in major pain. Wow. And because I had heart surgery, I'm on heart thinner, so they can't operate for a few days. And so I like the joke. I'm 73. I'm missing 2 organs.
I haven't, all my surgeries have been on my right leg from the knee down. So my joke is on my right leg, from my knee down, I'm bionic. Rest of me is a mess.
There you go.
That part is bionic on here.
Yeah. So what time did Clifford say? I'm 59.
To tell people I'm 70, they say, wow, you look great. Perfect.
That's good. I may have to tell people I'm like 78. I'm 80.
Well, let's hit one more topic.
Let's cover this before I forget it. Greaves and I are doing a T-shirt report of the history. We decided that like we're talking now, there's lots of history, whether it be Spider, or whether it be Don Newman and how he invented the roller, or Riley Hopkins, who now how many people buy a Riley from Ryan Ed and don't know who Riley is, and Riley was he's not dead. He's a good personal friend. And so Greaves and I decided we're going to do, and Greaves is up on the T-shirt reports on Facebook. Just type in T-shirt report, and Greaves's history is up. I'm editing mine right now, and then we're going to try and do Riley or Don Newman. The problem with Riley is he's very shouldn't say computer illiterate, but he's not on Facebook. Right. He doesn't really do. I'm not sure he has a computer.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, so we're trying to find a way. I just saw him last year at the Long Beach ISS show, and he looked great. And I've known Riley since 1979. Yeah. But who would know Riley? How many people would buy a Ryanette thing with the Riley branding and not know who Riley Hopkins was?
Richard and I were talking about the podcast you guys are going to be doing, and I brought up the name. We were talking just about people. I said, "Man, has anybody heard from Roger Jennings?"
What's a good one?
Richard wrote that down. I'm like, Roger. He goes, "Yeah, he's still alive." And man, made a great hat.
He's still alive because Roger will every year kind of appear in my email. Hey, Scott, how you doing? I know he's and I hope Roger's not watching. And if he is, it doesn't matter. I think Roger's about 80. I mean, Roger's older than most of us.
Yeah.
And, he built like electrical substations for cities. That's what his main business was.
Oh, I did not know that.
I don't know how. I think somebody came in and said to him, like with Riley, because Riley had like a machine shop, said, "Hey, can you make this kind of a thing that prints T-shirts? And here's a picture of one." And I think that's how Jennings got into business.
Right.
So,
Gusta says, "Do you take a pre-order on that history book?"
It's not a book. It's a online. So just go online to T-shirt report on Facebook. And it's Greaves is an hour and a half video. Mine is about an hour and a half of I was born in a log cabin and and all that.
Raised by wolves in Iowa.
Yeah.
That
should be fun. I think we need to try and capture the history as some of us are getting older. And
I do agree.
We need to try and get it.
What's the saying? The one thing man never learns from history is that man never learns anything from history.
And
then repeats it.
That's for sure.
And so I love last week we had Nate Leber on, and Nate told me, he goes, he has always been a sponge, listening to everybody, and he sought out people that knew more or had just been down a road, and we were talking, and Nate, feel free to chime in. I know they're listening, but he says, we were talking, he goes, I don't want to hit the potholes that they did. And for everybody, of you, of Richard, of Mark Coudray, of guys like that, yes, there are successes, but there are potholes and pitfalls. Why hit the same problems?
I know. I was talking. I don't think I was talking with you. Maybe it was Greaves about. I have made and lost businesses, and I'm some things I'm not proud of. I'm an entrepreneur, and you kind of go a little too fast. But I've come to the conclusion, no matter whose business it is that you will someday you'll make that decision today, thinking it's a really smart thing you're doing, and a year later, it comes back to haunt you. And
Yep.
I've been guilty of that. And I think every business guy that it says, "Hey, Scott, what advice can you give me?" My advice is think through some of your decisions because you're entrepreneurial, it's a knee jerk. Let's do this because that was always me. Let's just do it. And you don't think it through. And that thing will come back. And a year later, you wonder why, whatever. And so I was very guilty of that, of making a quick decision. So just if I could give anybody advice, just be careful of that.
My advice now, I don't own a business, never has. And really, I don't have that entrepreneurial spirit like you guys do. But my aunt and uncle, who I've talked about on here before, my aunt's only 7 years older than me. So she's like my sister, my other mom, and my aunt. But her husband invented, if you've ever seen vinyl siding for your house with foam on the back, he invented that. And when he started that business, my first house, I'm in my 20s, I bought my first house, but my aunt and uncle and their 3 kids, my cousins, lived there with me for 6 months because he was starting the business. That's what families do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that business is highly successful now. He's retired. My cousin's running it, and it's highly successful. And him and I were talking, and he said, for as blessed as they have been, the older he's gotten, the more they did, he's realized, he said, what people don't realize in business is that you are always one bad decision or a decision that doesn't go right, one natural disaster, one medical emergency away from complete.
I agree.
So
bring up the latest. There's a new question. It's a long question.
This is from Pete.
Oh, it's from Pete?
Yeah. Well, he's a Facebook user. So yeah. Chasing opportunity will get you further in life and in business than trying to avoid mistakes. That perspective is part of what makes Zuckerberg so successful.
Yeah, I think I was always guilty of probably thinking it's good enough, ship it.
Yeah.
And, that does come back to haunt you a little bit, but
it does.
It's the entrepreneurial way, though. I think it's I used to call it when I had at one time 90 employees at US Screen, and they called it Scott time. Let's do it now. Let's get this thing done. We don't need to research it to death. And
well, here's the other part. It says he has no qualms about rushing out an imperfect product. In fact, his famous mantra is move fast and break things, says Hoffman of Zuckerberg's hacker mentality. If you're Steve Jobs, you can wait for your product to be perfect, but there are almost no Steve Jobs in the world.
Right.
And that would be true.
Although there's a guy that really kept it. I always like to think about when people want to make things too hard. Steve Jobs, is keep it simple. I'll try to make this short. I saw or read an article where somebody was pitching Steve Jobs years ago a video player. It was early on, and they had all these buttons. And after the presentation, Steve gets up and goes to the board and goes, play. That's all he wanted on the interface. Play. And it was so perfect. I've often said I want to build stuff like that, simple, push the button, as opposed to having all this stuff. So Clara is asking, what's you made, this is my preferred line count and angle, and this made some of you may disagree with this. For years we all for CMYK talked about 4 different angles: 15 degrees for the yellow, and 45 for the magenta, 75 for the black, and the cyan. I think it was. It's been a long time. In the last 8 or 9 years, I've been using 25 degrees for everything. I don't care if you use 22 and a half. That's what AccuRips is set for.
Right.
25 degrees for everything for CMYK and simulated, because only assured. 45 line for simple stuff, 55 line halftone for more complex stuff, 65 if you want, but it's almost too much,
I agree.
And elliptical dot, but frankly, maybe it's me. I think a round dot's easier to burn at 45 lines. So I've been doing 45 round dot, 25 degree angle. The prints look great. I see prints from my customers all the time. They send me pictures, and that's just what I'm doing. Works. People say, well, how do you know they work? I say, well, look at every shirt I've ever done that people have followed me. There's no moire.
Right.
Well, what's your math for knowing that it works? I don't need no math. Did I mention that there's no moire?
Yeah. It looks great. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, probably with attitude, but anyway.
No.
Hey, one topic we were going to talk about was And again, I'm not trying to sell you a rip because I'm now phasing out T-rip and just selling Filmmaker. But the problem today is every day I get an email from somebody saying, Scott, my Epson 1430 died. What printer do I buy? Because Epson has discontinued all of them.
Well, that's our next.
I don't have an answer. I'm not telling you I have an answer. I'm just telling you this is a big deal. Epson discontinued the P400, the P600, the P800, the P700. People don't know what printer to buy. And so all of guys like me that sell rips, we have a list of all the printers we support. 2/3 of them aren't available now.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't have a good answer, by the way. I'm just saying this is a big deal right now.
Yeah. It is a big deal. Yeah. And I don't have an answer either.
Yeah. I mean, if
AccuRip's gone, all these printers are gone and not available anymore. They're not being supported.
So you buy a used one if you can of whether a 1430 or a P400 or a P600, and you know, and so yeah, it's a tough deal.
You can get Filmmaker. Filmmaker only works on, well, that works on Mac and PCs, correct?
No, that's the other issue. You get a lot. You know, if you look at the world of print drivers, they're pretty much PC based, but the world of graphic arts is very, very Mac based. So you get the graphic, the artists who want a rip that'll work on their Mac, and Filmmakers. AccuRip worked on both, and who knows what's happening with AccuRip? They're supposed to be coming out end of this 1st of March, I think, with their new version. You know, they were off the market for a while, so I don't know. Shane is saying that the T30, I think, the T3270 is still available.
Yep. That's what he's saying.
And I think in the world of rips, so I don't recall if that puts you over to the next size, because rips are sold by the inch. Most people, even Filmmaker, $495 for up to 24 inches. Over 24, it's $795. And so it puts you to that new level, you know.
It's almost like you're going to end up having to go into a Harlequin or something like that. Which
who's using Claire is using Colorgate, and I'm not familiar with Colorgate. And Michael Woolridge is saying that they have a 1430 reconditioned. Boy, I always tell people, if you can find a 1430, that sucker was a workhorse. But it seems to be almost end of life. Not a day go by that I don't get somebody says my 1430 died. It's like almost they had a time frame like 2021.
Right. Yeah.
That'll be it. You know. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
And Shane says yes, the XL version.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So
you know, I did want to talk if we could. And is Pete still on?
Pete, are you still on? Let's see. Talk about the history now and future, the digital squeegee.
Yeah, I was joking that I remember talking to Rich Hoffman when I came out with the TJET in 2004. Like a year later, I really felt that down the road, not Epson rebuilt printers, but individual print heads, you know, and all that industrial. Roll that up to a printer. Kornit had one, I think, 2005, 2000. Yeah. They didn't know what they had. They had no idea how to show it. And I'm thinking, oh, you guys are idiots. You're not showing it right. The t-shirt guys are looking at that. That's slow, you know. I remember talking to Rich Hoffman and saying, Rich, we need to partner together. And he wasn't kind of that partner kind of a guy. But he said, I don't care about digital. I'm not sure if he was blowing smoke, or I do truly believe he didn't think digital would ever be what it is now. But I'm surprised that now the digital squeegee, which I've never seen one. Well, I've seen them at shows, but I've never worked one. But it seems to be, even though it's expensive, the flavor of the month. And that, and of course, computer to screen. And we showed one of the very first computer to screens in 2004 at Minneapolis SGI show. Sure. We had the TJET. It was just me and Kornit, only guys with digital direct to garment. And we were showing a direct to screen. And the interest was so much on the TJET that we decided not to pursue the computer to screen. And we even had, Michael Fresener even had LED lights on it to cure it when it came through.
Oh, really?
I mean, 2004.
Yeah.
We thought, probably like Rich Hoffman with us in the we thought, you know, this is a fad.
Right. Yeah.
So
we got some comments there, you know, and I think you're right on the digital squeegee. You know, M&R is the flavor of the month. They're the big known ones. They're working well. The people that have them are working well.
They seem to be. I mean, Rock has one, and MHM, you know.
Yeah, Sean Kirkpatrick has one. Pete has them. They're in different markets, but yeah, they're working well.
Yeah. Greg is mentioning in a comment that Greg Kitson, he saw one. Yeah, there was a hybrid. I forget, it was a company out of Italy. Starts with an M. Can't think of their name, but we saw one there. But it was an Epson 4000 refurbished to do DTG. It was slow. And again, those guys were not screen print guys. I remember when I first saw Matt Rome, people think of me maybe as being the inventor of, I wasn't the inventor of DTG.
Yeah.
Guys it's going to be in my history, guys in France in 1994 were inkjetting. But Matt Rome had a machine at a show, and his people were loading the shirts so meticulously that I know the screeners were walking by going, that's slow.
Yep.
It just killed me because I had to have somebody there loading that shirt on, so they could see that it was fast. So it's funny how people that aren't in the t-shirt business will oftentimes not quite get what a t-shirt printer wants to see. I think a little higher production, good hand,
This goes back to, I remember the very first article I ever wrote, Scott, was called, it was in 2007, because I would have been 20 years in the industry, and it was called That Was Then, This Is Now, Welcome to 2008. And I talked about three things. The premise was some things are new, some things are improved, and some may just be the answer. It's always been there. And one of them I talked about retentionable frames, dip tanks, and then because I was working with Brian Walker, who we were selling the Brother machines,
right,
and talking about direct to garment. And the article I put was, yes, it can only do white right now on light colored shirts. White was new. You had it. It was coming through there. And I just said, it remains to be seen. But I said, we are thinking as screen printers, and I'm paraphrasing now, where we should be going, oh my gosh, what are the capabilities? Because you have infinite color. Yes, your ink costs are fixed, where you're not limited to 4 screens, 6 screens, whatever. If it was 1987 and said, no, I can print this with infinite screens, and you just can't go on black shirts, people went, that would be amazing. That would be futuristic. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a thing in our industry where we look at it, and as screen printers and stuff, we are brutal. We are vicious, going, here's what it can't do. Mm-hmm. Oh, it can't do this, or it doesn't fit in my little box. And that has been the downfall of a lot of companies, where, again, we're back to dying on that hill. And I know it's, I wrote years later, I wrote screen printing, Printware asked me to write an article on screen printing versus digital. And I said, I'll write it, but I'm not going to do one over the other, because I didn't believe it was. I didn't think one was going to overtake the other. I said, the markets can complement each other. You have to know your market and what you're going to.
Well, I thought digital would kill screen printing. I mean, I wrote an article in 1996 that says, is screen printing dead? And this was after I saw Matt Rome's machine. And even though it was slow and he was promising white way back then, and the prints were dull, after that, I remember Dan from Workhorse, I think, called me and says, hey, what do you think about this? Should we get out of the business? Who knows? But I was guilty of thinking that it was going to kill screen printing, and I totally misjudged that the cost of the ink was a factor. I probably hurt myself financially, which was probably my downfall with the DuPont machine. That I worked up this DuPont machine that would do 400 shirts an hour. I thought, this is it. 400 shirts an hour. It was a thing of beauty called the HB Pro. It's on my YouTube channel. There's a video of it. I took that thing to 5 shows. I put one in Fortune Fashion, big company in LA. That's I think they're gone now. Screen print company. I put one in Cafe Press. Zazzle bought one from me. Cafe Press was going to buy it. Took them all back because they discovered that it was too much, like a space shuttle, and the ink cost was too much, the white ink. And that's where now the hybrids, where you're going to screen print the white. So you got cheap white ink compared to digital white ink. The CMYK colors are cheap. And so, but I was a tactical error. I misjudged. I thought that the average large shop would look at the white ink's a little more money, but I don't have to do a dozen screens or reclaim or do separations. All the pre-press would then offset the extra ink costs. They don't look at it that way. They looked at just, God, I'm paying $300 a liter for this ink, and it was a tactical. It was one of that's why I came up with the idea that you make a decision today that a year later you'll regret. And that was something I always regretted. I thought the market was ready. Now the market's ready,
Sure. It might have just been before the time was ready,
Probably
Scott.
so.
And for you, it wasn't, it wasn't just, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm gonna start my own business. This is, I'm gonna create a market. The market wasn't there.
It
And
really wasn't. No, I mean, we were
Scott,
selling.
not to blow smoke on you. I mean, when you and I were talking, I've told you this. When I think of you, you are the greatest marketer. You didn't invent anything. Like you said, Matt Rome was doing digital before that. But you brought DTG to the industry.
I did. I saw opportunities that they weren't being.
And I think inkjet film also in my career.
And the
it
first rip, really, I mean, people were doing rips, but the fast rip was guys that had other rips, similar rips, didn't know how to market them, because I always marketed them from a screen printer's point of view.
Yep.
I knew my market. And usually the guys that were even like I mean, forgetting that, Cornete, a good example of a company who, of course, they're doing well, no doubt about it. They sold, whatever, Amazon, $400 million worth of machines. But here's guys that were inkjet guys, not t-shirt guys. And they didn't know how to show it. I didn't think they didn't know how to push the button that a t-shirt screen printer would then get turned on by. And it was the same for rips. The rip guys were all computer nerds. They didn't know what a t-shirt printer was. They didn't know a t-shirt printer needed halftones or what's an angle, And so I was the one that saw that as, wow, somebody's got to be able to sell this. I'll be the guy to sell it.
Sure.
We probably sold 10,000 fast rips. I mean, we were the guy.
Yeah.
I know we got to run. The quick story. I remember when I developed the rip, I walked into my wife's office and I said, "Honey, I need to buy an Epson 3000 for testing." And at that time, the Epson 3000s were $1,200. I need to buy one because money was tight then. And I said, I think I can sell some of this thing I'm developing called a rip. And I think I can sell a few printers. Like 2 years later, we were buying Epson 3000s by the truckload.
Yeah.
but I remember going into Pat, humbly going, "Pat, I need $1,200 for this Scott idea."
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, people that are married, Scott still has to, check it out with his wife, because if Pat's not happy, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. So, well, let's hit some of these comments. Carlos says, as much as I hate to say this, DTG is the future. And I think it's more hybrid will be the future.
Yeah.
Than anything else. DTG, part of it is going to be, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, I think until you can get some specialty effects, some of the gels, some of the doming effects, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's the whole head design. Ghosta says DTG going to take all the market, right? I don't think all of it, but I think it's something we know now you have to keep an eye on, and you have to know as a garment decorator, do you have the market for it? To one, either purchase it or partner with somebody to have it done.
Well, when you see machines that are sold used on some of the groups, it's always the same comment. We took a different direction.
Yep.
We didn't have the business to support it. And that's a common, I mean, almost daily, if you go to any of the DTG groups on Facebook, that's a common theme of guys that are selling their machines is, and that they, unfortunately, not to talk down to the startups, but they this would be cool. I'll buy this machine, and Mom, we can sell shirts to the school, and how it is. That's how you get sucked into this business that way.
Right.
And with DTG, that's dangerous, because you pissed away 15 grand on a machine as opposed to buying a $1,000 t-shirt printing press, it's too bad.
Richard says a Maki manual press.
Maki, thank you, Richard. Richard, it was Maki. Thank you. I was close. I said it started with an M. Maki.
Yeah, I've never heard of that manual press. Wow.
They had a patent on something. I'm not sure if it was a global patent, but they had a patent on combining digital and screening or something. I forget what it was.
Interesting. Jeremy says interesting stuff. Greg Kitson, if it does not fit, you're not marketing it correctly. Agreed.
Words of wisdom. Greg Kitson, you're always.
Wondered what happened with Fortune Fashion's facility was huge. It's gone.
I don't know the story on that. They were a big company. We were over there a few times.
It was in California, so
yeah. I knew Coudray, I think, practically lived there doing a consulting job. And we're talking years and years ago.
Didn't Mark Gervais work there?
I don't know. I don't know Mark's history that well.
I thought he worked there at one time.
I should.
Greg Kitson, marketing profitability dollars are in B2C, web to print, JIT customers. I agree.
Yeah.
It's business. It's just in time, and it's one off. Think in units of one.
That's the market. By the way, Greg got in this business by buying my book. Greg told me that
Another
one
one.
time. I was doing some work back there with Greg, and he said,
You
I
know,
bought your book. So,
and that's everything.
Simon's saying that Mark worked at Fortune Fashion. He was commenting.
He did. Okay, yeah, I thought I heard he did. Let's see, Gene Hash. Oh, my buddy Gene. Even in the industrial side, digital and screen complement each other.
I don't think it's going to die. I don't think screening. I thought it was going to die, but I don't think screening is going to die. But the hybrid is certainly interesting.
So everybody who does not know Gene Hash, I refer to him as my other friend. Do you know Gene, Scott?
I don't think so. Now, Gene, if I know you, and I apologize if I.
Gene is in that membrane switch, that industrial side. He is a Joe Clark disciple. And he was there at Joe's funeral with us, but great people. He works at Cubberson in Youngstown. And I took Gene in to look at an automatic coder, and it was the first time he was ever in a large textile shop. That was just a couple years ago.
Wow.
And he made the comment of how much it's improved, where, those industrial membrane switch nameplate shops are very much high end. But he saw how much that the industry, the garment decorating, to be done right, is very close to it now. Because what do we do about sensory fabrics and stuff? So Gene's thinking outside of the box on that, of things that are happening. So
looks like Simon's commenting on. Hi, Simon, by the way, commenting on Fortune Fashion. They're a big company. They were like the guys,
Absolutely. Okay, Jeremy Duncan, I agree. Don't think screen will ever die. I'm a huge fan. Daton Dan says Fortune was bought by Hanes, moved to Honduras. Okay, thank you, Dan, for that update.
I think I actually knew that. It's been a long time.
Fortune was where a lot of us met and cut our teeth. I've never had the opportunity to go there because it was West Coast, but I knew.
Just tons of licensed stuff. They were the guys. I mean, if you talked about a big printer that had all the licenses, it was those guys.
Yep. And then there was them. Remember Winterland also? Frank Ficani did the work. Just huge.
Long
Jeremy Duncan says, great guy, great talk, guys. Good stuff. We'll have to follow more. Please do, Jeremy. And, everybody's listening. Share with your people, your friends on this.
Jim, thank you.
I agree, though. Dan says, both Hanes and Gilding are producing printing in Honduras for major accounts like Disney. Thus, the Fortune Fashion purchase. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's funny to pump a product. My T-Seps that separates. Hanes uses it in their Honduras factory, and one of their guys came to one of the classes, and he's become kind of an email friend. I think they've got like 30 or 40 licenses for my product, and so a lot of the big guys, because they got to crank that shit out. Pardon me, they got to get those seps done, and so it's funny how you go online and you see lots of guys would say, well, what separation program should I buy? And you get the purists saying, you don't need no sequence separation program, do it in Photoshop. I'm telling you what, I have more big companies who use my software, and it could be mine. It could be Sep Studio. It could be Quick Seps, but it's a tool. Like we talked about tools earlier. It's just a tool, and it saves you time, whether any of them. It always irritates me when I get that attitude. You don't need no separation software. Learn how to do it. We'll take my master class.
Exactly. Well, and we're pretty much out of time, Scott. That went quick. To reach Scott, how can they reach you? Right there? Is that the best?
Make sure it's T-Business. Yeah, send me an email. Tell me who you are, what you want.
Online. Any of his products, he has online videos and everything. So just a great resource. And then, of course, that's wrong. It should be Shine on Floyd USA.
Thank you very much. There's a D in there. Floyd. Shine on Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd. That's the cover band for your band. Yes. But yeah, and make sure, man, everybody look for Scott and Richard's show, the T-shirt report. All the videos are on YouTube, I believe, from all of you and Richard have done. I was actually on episode number 2.
That's right. You were one of our early guests. Yeah.
That was actually my very first video interview.
That was what, 5 years ago?
Oh, it was 2014 or 15, around there.
Yeah, probably
I
so.
had just moved back to Michigan. Because remember, there was like 12 inches of snow fell. Richard and I were both snowed in. And I
Oh,
was
right. Now it's, of course,
yeah,
sunny Arizona by my cactus with my computer. You know.
exactly, watching the javelina go through your yard.
They still do. It's the path. Yesterday, I'm out smoking a cigar, and I look, and there's two coyotes just walking through the backyard. You know, hi guys. You know, javelina go through. You know, it's been fun. It's been fun. I really enjoyed doing this. I hope I didn't pump products too much, but you know what the hell.
Craig Kitson says the book, How to Print for Fun and Profit. Absolutely. Cal Keene says big ups to the veteran of the industry. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for people before me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And you know, I'm to the place where, you know, it shows. I've had people say, yeah, I saw your show. I didn't want to come up and bother you. Come talk to us. I have never found anybody, Scott, who was rude, who would not talk,
right,
and would not share. And I remember, Scott, you probably don't remember, but I remember introducing myself to you early on, and you didn't know who I was. You asked who I was and what I was doing, and said it was a pleasure to meet you, and it was great.
Before the show, I was thinking about that. But who were you? Were you working for Easy Way then?
I worked for J Products. Remember Larry Rogers and J?
Yeah, no, but when I met you, I was thinking you were working for Easy Way when I met you, but maybe you were working for J Products.
We're going to ignore Ghost on this right now. So that had to come up. I'll tell you about that later, Scott. When I first met you, and you don't remember, I was with J Products and we were at a show. I knew who you were.
I remember meeting you. I do remember. I was thinking you were. I was trying to think of who you were working for. No, I remember meeting you. I don't know why, but you kind of stuck in my mind, and you were friendly, and you know.
Someone said, I remember, Alan. That's I was at a someone that recognized me from years ago. They go, I remember you. You were younger. You had longer blonde hair. It's like, oh yeah, blonde hair. Yeah, who remembers that? So.
I don't remember that.
But yeah, I was thinner. Richard will tell you I was thinner, way thinner, but yeah.
I remember that.
yeah, we all were. Thanks. But you know, I had never, and I guess because I was lucky, J Products was such a force of it as an independent distributor, and you guys had just started selling inkjet film, things like that, bringing that to the market. Your school,
we sold a ton of, I'll tell you what, we sold a ton of film.
And so at J Products, we had a lot of vendors in and got to meet a lot of the high ups. They would come to our booth. That's how I met Kevin Davies and Spider, because Larry was talking to him, and you know, that's how I got to meet all those people. So yeah, big ups to the veterinary industry. I don't consider mine one, but appreciate the trails that you blazed, and you know, you all.
Right. That's all I know.
I told Joe when we were talking, I said when I got inducted into the academy, when I made it, he said, well, you deserve it. And I said, I can't believe it. I said, because Joe knew me when what I call young, angry Alan back then when I was young and angry. I go, you know, you guys didn't toss me to the curb like you could have. And Joe Clark is only could say, he goes, no, we might have had a meeting or two about it, but no, we never tossed you to the curb.
Yeah. So, the late great Joe Clark.
So awesome. So Ghost on my podcast. No, I haven't done anything on it. It's on my whiteboard. So Scott, the big joke is we hate Marshall Atkinson, by the way, now. So I had an idea for a podcast. I wrote down stuff. I have it in the file somewhere. Told it to Marshall, has to be almost 2 years ago. And we're here talking about people, come on, just get out, do something, try it. And Marshall brought it up online. And so every week someone asks me about it. What have I done with the podcast?
That's funny. I'm thinking about doing I know we got to run. I've thought about doing a podcast where I do a set of separations live.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great.
I just need to find the time to do it, where I pretty much take a design and I say, here's how I do it. And this is going to be live. You're going to watch my screw ups. You're going to watch me redo something that I just did. And it might be 15, 20 minutes long. But I thought there might be, because I think people, even in my online courses, I teach it, but a lot of times there'll be things I do that probably is not in my course. It's a quick little workaround I do, maybe because it's a piece of crap JPEG and I got to redo a whole area. Well, people might want to see how I do that. And so I've thought about doing that. And so I may do that. My problem is there any way to monetize it?
Yeah, there actually is. And we could talk about that afterwards. And, you know, I think what Marshall and Tom are doing at Shirt Lab Tribe is a great way on it. And there is a way to monetize. It's all about marketing ahead of
Not that
time.
I'm greedy, but I like it. Well, of course, we haven't gone out. I have more money in the bank now than for a long time because I haven't gone out to eat dinner every week, twice, 3 times.
All of us.
You know, so the whole thing. Anyway, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great, Scott. Thank you so much. So everybody, next week, Marshall will be back. Supposedly, I believe he is, unless something comes up. We're planning on it. But special guest, Mr. Mark Granberry of Graphic Solutions Group.
I knew his dad.
What's that? Yeah, I met his dad early on. And I am excited about having Mark. If you guys don't know Mark Granberry, he is the president, the owner of Graphic Solutions, who is a large supplier of screen, digital, embroidery, HTV through the center of the country.
They are.
Louisiana,
we always do them at Texas Screen Supply.
Yep.
You know, and it was just a local regional company.
So yeah, big, but they were local, but they had branches in Texas, and then they had, remember, Neon Engineering in Oklahoma they owned, and then they had Texas Sign, and he came after, I think his dad was gone about 2000. He scaled that all into one group. And they are known for just relationships with their vendors, their customers. And I am so excited to have Mark on. He was one, it was kind of a pie in the sky. I reached out to him and they agreed to it. And
well, there's a guy with history. I mean, those guys.
It is.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you guys want to look up Graphic Solutions Group, most people know Mark Soldonic, who's been on the show, not with us, but chiming in. You know, is their application specialist for screen, but very excited to have Mark on next week. Tell everybody, share it, comment on it. If you're watching it later on YouTube, comment us, and don't forget, reach out to Scott. If you need to get a hold of him, just email him from there or go to his company on any of the products or anything and do. So, Scott.
It's been fun. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great week. Be safe. Texas, we're keeping you in mind, man. Be safe out there.
Bye-bye.